The power of news. Everyone wants to be in the know of what's happening in the world. And as the world changes, so does the news, as well as the industry behind it. There has and always will be a need for broadcasting, but there has been significant changes to how people consume it over hundreds of years. So where is the industry going? The now dying newspaper started it all. The printing press evolved over to being practically non-existent today. What used to be busy buildings are now empty with no use. So where is the newspaper gone? Many media houses have taken to the internet, which is not entirely a bad thing as the audience is always changing. It's rare nowadays you see a younger person reading the morning newspaper, but rather getting it on their laptop or phone. Experienced reporter Kevin Martin has worked in the newspaper industry for many years as the court reporter. He notes the changes he's experienced as well as his outlook to the future.
It's changed a whole lot. Technology has been the driving force, of course. I cover whatever cases I had to throughout the day, and then I go back to a media room office at the end of the day and write my stories on what were archaic computers, but TRS-80s is what they were, and they only had 3 lines of type on the screen, so you couldn't scroll up and down your story or look at things like that. You couldn't see much of your story other than the first few lines that the last few lines you've just written. It was completely different. Then I'd sit and I'd write one story and I'd send it, and then we used modems to hook up to a landline telephone and wait for the squeal and hook it up and send the stories, and then beg that they made it there. Today, the moment a case happens, if a verdict's given, I'm expected to rush to my laptop, write a quick web piece, send it in, and have it online within minutes of the event happening. We folly to suggest that newspapers will be around forever. There are a lot of newspapers that have gone out of business or have gone strictly to an online format. Ultimately, providing newspaper companies can figure out a way to generate enough revenue online, then I think the newspapers will eventually go the way of the dodo bird. The news business is a business. It's owned by corporations that require a profit to maintain their business. So as long as newspapers in print form are making money, they'll continue to be around. But I think eventually you'll see that online becomes the business models that are being created for online will continue to create greater revenue, and eventually it'll be the sole revenue generator for that media outlet.
One thing is for certain, media is a business, and as long as the corporations are making money, business will remain. Changes go along with the times, and it's easy to see with technology integrating in our everyday lives. Another form of broadcasting that has been around for decades is radio, and it has seen just as much or even more changes than the newspaper, but you wouldn't see it. From reporting live, getting interviews, the studio, and the space needed has all drastically changed, and for the better. Obviously, with technology advancing rapidly, the industry had to as well. Morning news anchor for 770 Radio, Tony King, just celebrated his 40th year in industry. He's been able to see the radio industry advance into what it is today, and has an outlook on what the future might be.
So I did morning news on Saturdays and Sundays. And then I was out on the beat Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. So covering cops in court, city hall, school boards, any of those things, working the phones mostly because we were a small newsroom, we thought in those days. Now it might be classified as a big newsroom because there was actually 6 of us working in the newsroom at the time, plus 1 person in sports. Over the years, you go from just being the swing reporter to when I started at CHQR the first time in 1996, there was a team of probably 15 working in the newsroom just for CKXL or for CHQR at that time. We have 1 reporter for CHQR now. We're so closely interconnected with global television that most of our street reporting comes from the TV reporters. I'm not sure what the future for radio is right now. We're talking about doing more radio on the internet. We have cameras in this studio right now. So I think you're going to see more and more of that. I see that they've just put new cameras in our main talk studio. So look for more and more of that. But I mean, that's probably 3 years out. 10 years out is anybody's guess.
The rapid advancement in technology and the way people consume news controls the industry. But as Tony mentioned, with the convergence of roles and the downsizing of newsrooms, it comes with jobs being eliminated in their entirety. When one person can do multiple jobs, it ultimately saves money for the company. It's bound to happen. Cameramen are becoming less and less of the norm, but rather reporters who can do it all, known as VJs. Former cameraman Darren Wright has been impacted significantly by the convergence of roles, being laid off after working for Television News Network for 22 years and having to start from scratch as a result.
I actually was laid off from my position, so then I decided to move into the freelance world, and that's what I'm doing: freelance camera work for audiovisual companies and working for other networks, that kind of stuff. And that's the kind of stuff I'm doing now. We have more tools to use than we did before. Before we had one video camera, and you had to work with that. But now the tools of the trade have us do a lot. We have a lot more tools to use than we did before. We're tending to go with one more, maybe kind of one-person band or whatever. And I think there's some advantages to that. I mean, it's just different. It's just different. I wouldn't say it's a disability. It's just a change. We do things differently, that's all. You still need the person to put stuff together professionally. As far as things like live streaming, I think that you're going to see things change in the next couple of years as things like 5G comes in and that kind of stuff. You're going to be able to go live a lot easier than you do before. I mean, at one point when if I go back, 25 years ago when I worked in Regina, the idea, there was no thing as really going live. I think we're going to see maybe a change in the sense of how maybe we consume news. I think that we're seeing maybe more of a thing that people will look at stuff and decide more what they want to see. More of I'll explain it, kind of more of the fact of you be able to just kind of click on stuff and be able to choose. I think you're going to see more or things more in small portions or whatever. And I think that'll make a difference now. So
Yes, the way news will be consumed in the future will change. There was no such thing as television news or even online news 100 years ago. The industry is leaning towards a heavily video and online type, as Tony King mentioned, even with radio. But as far as the television side goes, we don't know where it will be in the future, with subscription TV services like Netflix and Crave and others becoming increasingly popular over cable. TV anchor Tara Overholt has been in the industry long enough, starting as a reporter to a VJ and sports reporter, and has a good perspective on the direction of the television industry.
There are some times when you need two people. There are some times when you need tight turnaround, things like that, that really help to make a story look better. But nowadays with technology, it's a lot better than what we had back in the day. I mean, my cameras used to be the size of a person, so were my tripod. And as one person trying to use a tripod and a camera, and a light, if you were lucky to have all that stuff, it was really not the easiest job on the face of the earth. So seeing it now, it's a little bit different because the technology makes it a lot easier and a lot faster. Because with technology, it means that we don't have as many camera people anymore. We have VJs. It means that we don't need as many editors because our VJs now edit. We don't need as many people behind the scenes, like actually directing the show and technically directing and also production directing, because there used to be, when I first started, there would be 6 people, like in those open newsroom shots, and I'd be at a desk. There were 6 to 7 people behind me, and now it's 2. You don't have people to double check work. You don't have people to, like you do, but like spelling mistakes happen because people are rushing because they're doing 3 jobs. Used to be one person would make your graphics that go across the screen. That was their job. And now you've got many different people doing them. Also, and now we have also the web. So suddenly we're not just doing television, we're also helping out with radio, we're also putting things up on the web because people consume media in such a different fashion. When it comes to just news on a whole, local news, even national news, I mean, are we going to have actually TV stations in 5 to 10 years from now, or was it just going to be a subscription-based whatever? I mean, everybody has Netflix, Prime, Amazon, or whatever, Hulu, I can't even think of the other ones. I mean, is it just going to be like CTV News, Global News, ABC News, Rogers News? Like, is it Are people going to have to subscribe that way now? People still love sharing stories, whether they're good, whether they're bad. We have this inherent curiosity of what's happening in our backyard and what is that thing and why is that going on? We like to be a part of our community, and that's still a part of why we do what we do and why people still tune in, whether it's online or on TV. So there's still a future in that. It just might be clicked on differently.
Wanting to know what is happening around you and in the world is human instinct. As the years have passed by, stories have changed, and the way they are told have changed, but the need for news hasn't diminished. New jobs have popped up to fit the way stories are now being told. The advancement of the internet has taken over the world, and it's hard to believe there was once a time without it. A new job that has come with the internet is strictly being an online journalist. Melissa Gilligan is one, and she hasn't seen many changes like others in the industry, but has one of the newest jobs, and it's arguably becoming one of the most important in the newsroom.
TV still can be, at times, unfortunately, very much geared toward the 5 o'clock news and the 6 o'clock news. Online still, though, has that component of immediacy where something happens and you need to react immediately, you need to get those details immediately, and you want to get it on the site as soon as possible. Online, you have the added bonus of being able to go on and give as many details as you want, go on for as long as you want. The biggest difference and the biggest benefit for me was that you have no time constraints. You're able to go on and give a more in-depth and complete look at whatever story you're writing. I remember it was very short. It was maybe 4 sentences for each. It was just the basic details. People didn't flesh anything out or add any added value to the online content at that point, because I think people were still under the impression that viewers would maybe get some basic details from online, but would then tune into radio or tune into a 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock newscast to get the rest of the story. Whereas now people, I think we understand, are sometimes only getting their news online or are going online to get a more complete picture of something they saw on TV or heard on the radio. The amount of quotes you're transcribing, the amount of pictures or video that you're adding, what we call added content, stuff that they can only see online, it is so much greater than it was before. Social media can guide a lot of our news gathering process and add to it in a lot of ways. But obviously it's a great source for misinformation and quote unquote fake news as well. And I think in terms of broadcast too, you can never underestimate the visual component there. As much as people love reading details online, they still want to see that video, they want to see those pictures. So if an online article isn't enough to satiate that, they're going to look to broadcast for that.
As some parts of the industry die off, new ones emerge, and some existing ones flourish. The need for a physical newspaper has died significantly due to technology, but the industry behind it hasn't, becoming almost completely online.
For radio, equipment has completely changed throughout the years, as people can now listen anywhere in the world, not just with a radio, but online with apps and streaming services. Even elements of radio have become visual, becoming an online component for viewers.
In television, reporters having a cameraman and editors is slowly fading into history, with the convergence of roles in every aspect. The workloads have got higher, with less people to do the same production.
And with the new online component taking over the industry in every stream, things don't stay the same for long in the broadcast field, with majority of consumers switching to digital news rather than switching the channel or flipping over to next page of the morning paper.
But a few things seem to be certain. The internet is bringing all streams of media together. Video and visuals aren't going anywhere in the near future. But by the next 10 to 20 years, it's possible the future of this industry could be entirely on the World Wide Web or an app. The future of broadcasting is in the hands of you, the consumer, and where it ends up will be the result.